On the topic of the ethics of vaccination, I notice a lack of clear ethical reasoning, and this is not surprising, seeing as how ethics is generally not a topic in public school and high school, and much of the thrust today is one narrative, is one approach, and that usually argues that it is right to vaccinate because it helps others who cannot vaccinate and who are immunocompromised or whatever it might be. So I want to provide some of the reasons that are given on different sides of this question because I don't think the public has been fairly educated on this and instead are too often bullied into a certain answer. So there are two general approaches to ethical questions, and either approach has a different what's called a unit of analysis. One unit of analysis is the individual, and another unit of analysis is the group. So the typical position that, like I said, is bullied on most people is that it is right to force others to vaccinate for the benefit of those who cannot, right? So who are immunocompromised or whatever it might be. So this requires a collectivist ethics, meaning that the group is the unit of analysis. So you might have also heard of the Christian ethic. So this is not just it's not a left or right wing thing. The Christian ethic also has the famous phrase of "you are your brother's keeper." And what's interesting about this is notice that it's not "your brother is your keeper." The original phrase that "you are your brother's keeper" presumes that you are able to help your brother. Is this universalizable? This idea that only the people who can help should help, and those who cannot help don't need to, and simply receive the benefits. What is the ethical responsibilities of the unable? Only to receive and demand help from the able? This is not proper ethical reasoning. The idea of your duty to mitigate the unchosen misfortunes of others can be found in philosopher John Rawls' theory of justice. He believed if we did not choose a certain misfortune we are born with, nor did we choose a certain fortune that we are born with, that we did not deserve the benefits or costs of those things. In other words, his idea was to socialize both the benefits and costs of what we are born with. And by socialize, we mean spread or share the cost and benefits over all of society, similar to a big and compulsory insurance policy. Therefore, this reasoning suggested those lucky enough to be born healthy owe something to those born unhealthy.
The needs of the many outweigh
the needs of the few.
Or the one.
So consider Spock from Star Trek's famous statement that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. The shallower or more obvious point is that the more people there are, the more needs there are, and certainly many people's needs are more in number than the needs of one person. However, most believe the meaning is deeper here, and an ethical commandment that the group's existence is more important than the individual, and if an individual was needed to be sacrificed to save a group, that he ought to be sacrificed. And related to vaccination, if an individual needed to be inconvenienced or put at risk by being vaccinated to save those who cannot be vaccinated, that would be the accepted dictate. But what does all this assume? It assumes that you do not own yourself, that rather your existence is tied to the health of the group, that you are born with an unchosen debt. Therefore, you must serve the group even at the sacrifice of your own life, for your life's purpose has been predetermined before you were born. You are owned by something larger than yourself. And notice again, this is not partisan. The left believe that you owe a debt to society. The right believe that you owe a debt to a religion or a god or whatever it might be. So this is not a partisan. This is why it's so pervasive and so strongly held today, because it's held by most of the left and the right. So is this right and fair? Is it right to be born or to exist for the purposes of others? So another way of putting this is, would it be right to be born in bondage? Would it be right to serve for crimes committed by your family? Would it be right to be required to pay the debt of your deceased parents? Would it be right to be born indentured or a slave to another? So on the contrary, so I've been discussing the group ethics, or the collectivist ethic. What's the contrary position? What's another way of thinking, another way of ethically reasoning? If you accept an individualist ethics, your life can be lived for your own sake, dealing with others as you choose to. One place this idea shows up is in a favorite novel of mine, The Fountainhead.
My terms are a man's right to exist for his own sake.
The group then is not the center of purpose for all. It is not the unit of ethical analysis, but rather the group is a concept only and created by the free association of individuals. The group is an emergent phenomena rather than a driving factor. So just in my own view, vaccinations on the whole are a good risk, just as driving to work is a good risk. In the future, everyone hopes that vaccines become safer, just as we hope cars become safer. If you accept an individualist ethics, the primary reason to be vaccinated is for your own well-being, not the well-being of others, because your life is yours and an end in itself, not a means for the ends or benefits of others, not to be sacrificed for someone else's gain. These are your rights, and these rights cannot be taken away by a claim made by another. Their need cannot trump your right, because your life is yours, not theirs, and nor a group's.